I have never read Berserk. That may be surprising if you've seen my channel before, as I am an adamant lover of dark and disturbing comics. Strangely, Berserk is one of those series I just never got around to. I always knew Berserk was dark based on things I've heard, but I always thought people were exaggerating. As I sit here writing this now, I can confidently say I was wrong. Even I, as a seasoned veteran of the macabre and the grotesque, was genuinely shocked at the level of brutality I witnessed in Berserk's opening chapters alone. I'm not sure there's anything I can really say that can accurately set the tone of this manga, so I'll show you instead. In one of the early chapters of Berserk, our protagonist, Guts, tortures a young girl with the decapitated head of her own father. Guts laughs in pure joy as the girl has a full-on breakdown. I want to reiterate that this is the hero of our story. Berserk sets the tone very quickly and it holds no punches. It's not for the faint of heart. It's dark. Arguably, it's one of the darkest mangas of all time. It's also considered by many, especially the people in my comment section, evidently, to be one of the greatest manga series of all time. For the few that may not be familiar with this series already, Berserk is an ongoing Japanese dark fantasy horror manga spanning over 40 volumes, written and illustrated by Kentaro Miura. The story of Berserk centers around two characters, Guts, a lone warrior who carries a giant black sword, and Griffith, the former leader of the mercenary group, the Band of the Hawk. At its core, Berserk is a story of revenge, but in reality, it's so much more than that. It's deep and complex. The series has been going on for almost 34 years. The world and the lore of Berserk is quite extensive. Berserk can be very nihilistic, so much so that if you look on YouTube, you can find a multitude of videos discussing Nietzschean philosophy within Berserk. At times, it can be depressing, it can feel scary and even downright sad. Yet, strangely, it's also very hopeful. Berserk deals with some heavy and complex themes, such as free will, morality, human nature, and religion, just to name a very few. The writing in Berserk is superb. It has to be, considering people are still talking and theorizing about the themes and motifs now for over 3 decades. This is also due in part to the many adaptations there have been of Berserk throughout the years. It's considered to be one of the most influential mangas of all time. It's also one of the most successful. If it wasn't for Berserk, we would likely not have most of the mangas, comics, animes, movies, and games of today. I know I sometimes have a tendency to exaggerate a bit when I'm talking about something I'm really passionate about, but this is not a hyperbole. There are tons of writers, artists, developers, and programmers who have all cited Berserk as an inspiration for their works. Hidetaka Miyazaki, the creative director and designer for the Soulsborne games, has cited Miura and Berserk as a huge inspiration for all his work. We can find Berserk references riddled in pretty much every FromSoft game. For example, in Sekiro Shadows Die Twice, the main character Wolf is a prosthetic hand he uses to assist him in battle, just like Guts. I don't know if there's another anime or manga or even comic that can be compared in terms of impact and legacy quite like Berserk, but I'm willing to bet that there isn't. Not to this scale. Berserk's legacy is truly something to behold. Now that we know over the basics of the manga, let's take a look at its author, Kentaro Miura. Kentaro Miura was born in Chiba City, Chiba Prefecture, Japan in 1966. Miura's father was a storyboard artist, and his mother was an art teacher, so in many ways it was almost destined that Miura would eventually become an artist. At only 10 years old, Miura created his first manga, Miura Ranger. While only being for his classmates to read, this manga spanned over 40 volumes. In high school, Miura would continue studying art. Some of his work was even put in some amateur publications. When Miura was 18, he briefly worked as an assistant to famed manga writer George Morikawa. Amazingly, Morikawa would let Miura go not because he was a bad worker, but because he was already so good at a young age that there was nothing more he could teach him. Imagine having one of the most well-known manga authors at the time tell you that you're so good he literally can't teach you anything. At this time, Miura already had some early sketches of characters that would later become Guts. Some of my doodles from back then are similar to him. I can't say they're a prototype for Guts, but I was able to create him by merging them together. The initial image of the knight was nothing more than a black knight with an artificial arm. Other things were inspired by various sources. For example, the appearance of the character came from science fiction. Basically, each element came from something different. Miura has also said that an early inspiration for Guts was Max from the first Mad Max movie. Originally, Guts' image came essentially from the first Mad Max. In short, leaving a world with a dark hero who's burning for revenge leads you to imagine a rabid character. When, guided by his anger, he will pour this rage on overpowering enemies. We must insist on his fanaticism if we want to remain coherent. That's why I found that Berserk would make a perfect title to represent my universe. Miura is evidently a big fan of American films, as he's also stated the Terminator and RoboCop films were also big inspirations for him. There are a few American directors like Tim Burton and Sam Raimi that Miura enjoys and has cited as big influences in his own work. Star Wars was another big inspiration for Miura. He said that A New Hope is one of his favorite films. One of the arcs in Berserk is even called Millennium Falcon, as a sort of homage to the Star Wars series. In 1988, Miura started working for manga writer Buronson. Buronson is known for his manga series Fist of the North Star, which Miura has stated was a big influence when crafting Berserk. Gwen Saga and Violence Jack were a few other mangas that helped Miura shape his world. The two would collaborate on a number of projects. It was during his work on The King of Wolves when Miura made a 48-page prototype for Berserk. This prototype is not canon to Berserk, it's more of a proof of concept. There are a few key differences from the prototype and the final manga. For example, in the prototype, Guts wears an eye patch over his right eye, while in the manga, he never wore one. Guts is also called the Black Knight in the prototype, not the Black Swordsman. The prototype is also notably less violent than the final manga. The prototype would be published in Hakusensha's monthly Kami, where it placed second in Kami's manga school competition. Only a year later, Berserk would make its debut in Hakusensha's monthly Animal House on August 25, 1989. Miura would remain as Berserk's writer and illustrator from 1989 until his untimely death in 2021. His death was a shock to everyone. Manga writers and authors all throughout Japan paid homage to Miura, including his former boss George Morikawa. Hakusensha announced that the serialization of Berserk would continue under manga writer and Miura's lifelong friend, Koji Mori. Mori has stated that Miura told him how he'd like the series to end, and Mori took it upon himself to finish the story. When asked about continuing the series, Mori said, "I will only write the episodes that Miura talked to me about. I will not flesh it out. I will not write episodes that I don't remember clearly. I will only write lines and stories that Miura described to me." Miura may no longer be with us, but his legacy will forever live on in his work. Berserk is a timeless masterpiece. It revolutionized the fantasy genre. It continues to captivate readers to this day. I don't believe there will ever be a series quite like Berserk again. I hate that it's taken me this long to read it, but I'm happy I get to share my journey with all of you. Now, before we get there, I do want to mention that plenty of other YouTubers have covered Berserk in a similar manner I'm going to. The Almighty Lolly and Super Eyepatch Wolf are two I recommend to check out if you want to watch more content on Berserk. Also, I should mention that I have not read all of it. In fact, I've only read what I'm going to cover today. I'm doing this for a couple of reasons, but mainly I just think it'll be more interesting if you're someone who's read all of Berserk to hear the story from an outsider's perspective. So all my thoughts and theories will not be influenced by anything that might happen later on. Now, with all that said, let's finally get into the late, great Kentaro Miura's Berserk. Chapter 1, The Black Swordsman. This chapter opens with our protagonist, Guts, having sex with a beautiful woman. It's quickly revealed, however, that this is not a beautiful woman. It's a hideous demon, a sort of succubus who has trapped Guts in to kill him. "You fell into my trap, fool. This is your last taste of heaven before I send you to hell." Unbeknownst to the demon, however, Guts isn't the one who fell into a trap. It was her. "The only one trapped is you, bitch." Guts has a prosthetic arm. This prosthetic has a few deadly attachments, one of them being a powerful cannon. Guts shoves the cannon into the demon's mouth and kills her. If this is your first time reading Berserk, you might be thinking to yourself, what the fuck was that? What kind of opening is that? What's happening? Why? It's definitely a strange way to open your story, but damn effective. It's so out there that it immediately grabs your attention. You want to know what's going on and what's happening here. It sets the tone rather quickly. It immediately tells you that the story is not for the faint of heart. If the scene bothers you, then you are not ready for what's to come. This creature is an apostle. We'll learn exactly what that means later, but Guts is on a mission to kill every apostle he comes across. By pretending to fall into the apostle's trap, she lets her guard down. Guts takes his chance and kills her. This opening scene is actually quite debated in the Berserk fandom. As the story continues, we learn quite a few things about Guts that makes this scene feel very out of character. What's funny is that when asked about it, Miura said that at this point, he really had no direction for where the story was going. He wanted to tell a story of revenge. He wanted to show Guts as a blood-hungry mercenary that would do anything to kill demons. When he was illustrating these panels, Miura didn't even know what Guts' backstory was going to be yet. He had a vision and he went for it. Some people also think this may be a reference to Conan the Barbarian, but I'm not too sure of the validity of that claim. I know nothing about Conan the Barbarian. I think this opening does a great job introducing us to Guts. It shows that he will do absolutely anything to kill apostles, and pretty soon we'll be seeing just how far Guts will go. Next, we see Guts traveling into a village. He passes by a carriage that appears to be holding women and children. We don't know what this means yet. Inside a tavern, we see a few thugs from Koda Castle throwing knives at a tied-up elf. This elf is named Puck. The peasants all feel bad for the elf, but they dare not try anything to save him. Guts walks in and sees all the commotion. He tells the tavern keeper that he's going to mess up his shop a little bit, and he loads his crossbow. He shoots one of the soldiers in the head. Guts' crossbow is capable of shooting a ton of bolts very quickly. He hurls the other men in bolts before any of them can make a move. Everyone in the tavern is stunned at the level of brutality they just witnessed. They're also used to being afraid of the thugs. They have never had anyone cross them like this before. Guts shoots the last soldier through his nose, but he does not kill him. He tells him to deliver his boss a message on his behalf. The Black Swordsman has come. That's all. Puck warns Guts that someone's behind him. He takes his giant sword and cuts the man completely in half. Everyone stands horrified. It was much too big to be called a sword. Massive, thick, heavy, and far too rough. Indeed, it was like a heap of raw iron. The Dragon Slayer is one of the most recognizable weapons in all of fiction. Even if you know nothing about Berserk, you probably know it has a warrior with a giant sword. Miura wanted a sword to catch the reader's eye. He got the idea from Fist of the North Star, when the character's fist would shoot up from the panel. The design of the sword came to Miura when he combined the swords from 2 different manga series he read. That comes from Shinji Wada's Pygmalion. Also, I think in the Gwen Saga spinoff The Snow Queen, there was this illustration of a 2 or 3 meter tall giant wielding a sword. Guts' sword is a cross between those two. It's just the right size to be still somehow carryable while giving the close to the action feeling of violent men's manga. I couldn't make up my mind for a while though, and Guts' design went through quite a bit of a change. Long hair, wielding a katana, etc. After agonizing over it for a while, I ended up with what he is now, and I feel like I really nailed it. All I had to do was somehow capture the swinging around of the sword and the pleasingness of it. Something kind of funny I learned while researching this was that when they were developing the first Berserk game, there's been 3, but in the first one, the programmers had such a hard time trying to put Guts' sword into the game, trying to program it in, because it was so big that whenever a battle took place indoors, like inside a castle or something, the sword would just bounce off of the walls, and it made it like impossible to make any progress, which is probably why after the first game they just set the other 2 to be mostly outdoors. Guts leaves the tavern without untying Puck. Puck manages to free himself and starts following Guts through the village. Puck was once a part of a troupe of traveling performers before they were attacked by the castle's thugs. He was kept prisoner in the tavern until Guts saved him. Puck says that the thugs used to raid the town quite often, terrorizing the citizens. The Lord Mayor made a deal with them that in exchange for a tribute, they'd leave the town alone and there'd be no more raids. No one could touch them. This is why no one could do anything in the tavern. They had a deal. And now that Guts killed the thugs in the tavern, that deal is broken, and the raids will likely start up again. Puck tries to sit on his shoulder, but Guts slaps him away. "Don't touch me, I'll squash you." Puck is definitely an interesting little guy. At first, he may seem out of place in this universe, but as the story continues, Puck shows that he does indeed have a place here. He is the comedic relief, but he's more than that. Puck has a much bigger role. We'll get into what that role is a little later on. Being an elf, Puck is one of the more traditional fantasy elements in Berserk. Miura wanted to give Guts an unlikely companion to offset him. A little funny fact, Miura has said that Puck and Guts' relationship was based on Pinocchio and the cricket from Pinocchio. I guess in this scenario, Guts is supposed to be Pinocchio. For some reason, there's this image that the main character of a fantasy has some small thing tagging along with them, like Pinocchio and his cricket. It did occur to me though that Guts with an adorable elf might be too extreme. And what's convenient about Puck is how nice and half-assed he is. All of the soldiers from Kota Castle surround Guts. Puck runs away and Guts is captured. In the dungeon of the castle, Guts is drawn up and tortured. Despite the immense pain he must be feeling, he does not make a single sound. He merely hangs there and spits in his torturer's face. The Lord Mayor walks in and he tells Guts that he has doomed the town. You have no idea how horrible he is. The ruler of those men. That thing is beyond human. It's something horrible and incomprehensible. A creature from the very depths of the pit. No one can kill him. At least, not anyone human. Guts tells the mayor that he knows what he is. That he is a monster that eats human flesh. And he knows that the mayor provides him with his meals. A prison wagon full of women and children. I'm the mayor. It's my duty to protect this town. Guts tells him that he isn't protecting the town, he's protecting himself. The mayor tells his men to continue torturing Guts, but to not kill him. He needs to hand him over to Kota Castle alive. Inside Kota Castle, we see the thug from earlier deliver Guts' message to the Baron. The Black Swordsman, you say? Yes, Baron. His sword was so big it towered over him, and he split Dean in half with one stroke. He dressed in all black and had a false arm made of iron, a real shady-looking guy. Could it be him? It appears the Baron may have run in with Guts before, or at the very least, knows of him. The mayor comes to the Baron to beg for forgiveness. He tells him that it wasn't his men that killed the Baron's soldiers, but the work of a lone vagrant. The mayor tells him that he will bring him double the gold and the prisoners if he keeps their pact. You look troubled. Unlike before, you're worried about losing your own life, aren't you? Gold, prisoners. I don't care about such things. All I wish to see are humans within a fiery apocalypse trying to escape. All I wish to hear is the sound of snapping bones crushed under the hooves of horses. I don't even need an excuse. Not at all. Everything the mayor said was right. The Baron isn't human. He's a monster. An angry, hate-filled, spiteful monster. He has no great motive or desire. He only wants death and destruction. He wants innocents to die. Likely so, he'll have more to fill his plate with. The mayor is escorted away. Guts wakes up face down on the ground. He's unable to move due to the extreme torture his body has gone through. Lying beside him is an ugly fetus-looking creature. You again. Guts has encountered this monstrosity before. The creature starts crawling towards him as he screams at it to get away from him. He appears to be afraid. A bit surprising, as we can see that Guts clearly doesn't fear these creatures. It could be due to the fact that Guts can't move, therefore he can't defend himself. I get a strange feeling that it's something more than that. Puck flies into the cell and kicks Guts the keys. He's here to break Guts out. As a way to make it even for Guts saving him in the tavern, the creature is nowhere to be seen, a figment of Guts' imagination. When he asks Puck why he came back, Puck tells him he has a debt to pay. Elves have a high sense of duty. Puck places his hand on Guts' shoulder. He freaks out and tells him to stop touching him. We see throughout the story that Guts has a big aversion to people touching him. The reason for this will become clear to the reader later on. Puck tells him he was only trying to help. He tells Guts that he'll take care of him. Little orbs of light start pouring out of Puck's wings. All of the pain is starting to leave his body. While healing him, Puck notices a strange-looking brand on his neck. Puck tries to ask him about it, but Guts doesn't say anything, only that he'll soon find out if he sticks around. Pretty soon, he'll come here to kill me, as well as burn this whole village to the ground. Guts is planning to use the townspeople as bait. He doesn't care for their lives. In fact, he hates them. He finds them to be weak and useless. All he cares about is killing the Baron. Anyone who dies because they get caught up in someone else's fight is a small fry who doesn't have the strength to survive in the first place. If someone can't live their life the way they please, they might as well die. Along with Puck's healing abilities, he's also able to feel the emotions of those around him. Guts' rage, his anger is so strong, it causes Puck physical pain. His emotions are pouring into me. My chest is burning. Is it rage? No, it's not just that. It's rage, sadness, and fear, all mixed together. So dark, and there's something even deeper than that. Puck asks Guts why he saved him in the tavern if he cares so little for the lives of others. Guts starts laughing hysterically. He calls Puck an idiot for thinking he'd ever save anything so small and insignificant. He was only there to deliver a message, not to save anyone, especially an elf, who Guts does not particularly care for. Well, he doesn't care for anyone, but you get the point. Puck begins to cry and flies away. The brand on Guts' neck starts to bleed. This means that the Baron is near. Outside, as Puck flies above the village, he can see that carnage has started. The Baron's army comes storming into the village, killing everyone in their path. The Baron rides on his great horse, with the corpse of a little boy on top of his halberd, for which he drinks his blood. His eyes are completely white, devoid of any humanity. His teeth are razor sharp. His armor resembles that of a giant king cobra. They lay waste to every villager in their path. From a big pile of corpses, Guts appears and starts firing his bolts into the army. It's not only the speed in which Guts is able to dispense the bolts that is impressive, but also his accuracy. He's able to hit most of the guards with killing blows, in particular, their eyes, necks, and mouths. Guts is so proficient in the art of killing. He's a one-man army, a walking massacre. He's able to cut a horse in half and its rider completely in one swing with his great dragon slayer. Finally, Guts comes face to face with the Baron. So, you're the Black Swordsman, the one who's been hunting us apostles. I don't know what you hope to accomplish, but to think a mere mortal can oppose us is pure folly. Guts loads his crossbow again and fires it at the Baron. At first, everyone believes he's killed the Baron. This is short-lived as he starts getting back up as if nothing happened. He's even smiling. Guts loads his crossbow again and blasts the Baron through the door. Guts goes to finish him off when a giant serpent's tail busts from the ground and swipes Guts away. It's futile. No matter how many bolts you shoot at me, a mere human like you can't possibly kill me. Just like the Apostle in the beginning, the Baron's human form is just a disguise. This monstrous snake is the Baron's true demonic form. I'm going to eat you. I'm going to eat you alive, boy. The Baron is so large he towers over the village. He uses his mighty tail and smacks Guts into the wall. He throws Guts around like a rag doll. He hits him again and again. The impact is so great that Guts starts bleeding from his mouth. Most humans would have had their organs crushed by the first blow and be quite dead by now. But it all ends here. The Baron picks him up by the arm. Puck looks on in fear. Weak. How pathetic humans are. You humans are nothing more than food, nothing but morsels to fill our stomachs. Food should learn to act like food. And as the Baron speaks, Guts, with his last inch of strength, pulls out his cannon and blows half of the Baron's face off. The Baron stumbles back. He's completely stunned. Seeing his opportunity, Guts grabs the Dragon Slayer and cuts the Baron right in half. Guts falls to his knees and begins laughing. Somehow, the Baron is still alive. He sees the brand upon Guts' neck. He says it's a mark, the brand of sacrifice. Guts asks the Baron about something called the God Hand. The God Hand. Where are the 5 members of the God Hand? The Baron swears he doesn't know where they are. Guts sets the Baron aflame and walks away as he screams out in pain. The carnage and the mayhem is too much for Puck to take. He is also feeling the physical pain Guts suffered in his fight. He walks out of the village, giving no care to the destruction that he caused. And the innocents that were killed because of him, none of that matters to him. Not in the slightest. The only thing that matters is finding the God Hand, no matter who has to die to find them. One question still remains. Who are the God Hand? This is the end of Chapter 1. I love this opening chapter. It introduces the reader to the world of Berserk perfectly and holds no punches. It's violent, it's brutal, and it's intense. I still find it so hard to believe that at this point, Miura had no idea where this story was going. For most of Berserk, Miura said that he was basically making it up as he went. At first, I didn't have any advanced plan. I just thought to do a shonen fantasy manga with a dark hero, because the manga of mine that had received a prize was published in a shonen magazine. A hero that suited shonen magazines, and well, there weren't many fantasy mangas at that time. As an inspiring writer myself, it's incomprehensible to me how someone can just start creating something to the scale of Berserk and somehow making up along the way. If anything, it really speaks to Miura's talent. Even in the beginning, when Miura was still working on the prototype, he had no real vision of where it was all going. All he had was guts. I didn't have a solid idea of how I wanted Berserk to be in the beginning, but the idea grew gradually by watching my favorite anime shows when I was in college. If I was interested in something, I'd be looking up information. It was like kneading clay. The concept of Berserk slowly came together. I didn't have the clear picture of what I really wanted to do at first. Miura didn't waste time trying to figure out every single tiny detail of this universe, which is something a lot of fantasy authors do. He had an idea for a warrior with a prosthetic hand and a giant sword, and he just kind of rolled with it. He took a chance, and in return made one of the greatest series of all time. Chapter 2, The Brand. This chapter opens with Puck riding a bird. Bit odd, considering he can fly himself. I guess he wanted to give his wings a break. He was following Gus to see where he was going after the bloodbath from the village. Puck eventually finds him all beat up. Guts asks Puck what he's still doing following him. Technically speaking, his debt is paid. Puck admits that all of the monster and demon hunting intrigues him. He figured that if he stays around Guts, he'll see all kinds of things. Guts swats him away and tells him he's no interest in keeping a pet. He tells Puck he hates him because he's weak. It pisses me off when I see weaklings. I feel like I want to crush them. They can't do a thing on their own. All they ever do is talk and buzz around people like flies. It makes me want to squash them. Gut leaves Puck in a puddle and walks away. It starts raining and Guts is still by himself. I guess the talk of weaklings seems to have finally warded Puck away. A priest and his daughter in a wagon rides up next to Guts and asks him if he wants to hop in. Guts tells him that for his own sake, he should let him be. There are evil spirits that follow him. A legion. The priest tells him that he has nothing to worry about, because he has good spirits that follow him, and a lucky one. We see that Puck is already in the wagon. Though still reluctant, Guts gets in. The girl asks Guts if he'd like some homemade wine. She asks about his sword. He tells her that he uses it for cooking. The priest sees through his deceit. He knows that Guts is a mercenary. I don't have much respect for that profession. Killing other people for a living. Live by the sword, die by the sword. The priest tells the story of his nephew. My nephew also chose to live by the sword and left home as soon as he could. 5 years ago, he lost his life on a battlefield. Just some lowly soldier with no name. What's wrong with that? He died doing what he wanted, no matter what, right? I bet he was happy. Of course, once you die, that's it. Nothing comes after that. Nothing at all. This scene tells a lot about Guts' character. He only respects those who choose to pave their own path in life. He hates those that can't fight for themselves. Was it that Guts was helpless at one point? Couldn't defend himself? Maybe he sees something of himself in the priest and the little girl. Guts ends up falling asleep and having a nightmare. He's completely naked, walking through a tight passageway filled with water. A giant eye in the sky above looks down upon him. He looks exhausted and very frightened. The mark on his neck starts to bleed, which means something bad is near. You cannot run from us. Guts starts running away. He accidentally steps on a spike in the ground. Something is drawing close. He can't get his foot out. He reaches for his arm cannon, but sees that his prosthetic is gone. You cannot run. It's the fetus monster from earlier, but this time it's giant. movement. This scene actually mirrors the one from earlier. In both, Guts was unable to move. He feels trapped by whatever the hell this thing is. He's unable to escape, like he can't run away from it. It turns out that this nightmare was caused by an incubus, an evil spirit that gives people nightmares and feeds off their fear. Guts wasn't lying when he said he had evil spirits follow him. So far, we've seen anywhere Guts goes, he attracts evil. It's because of his brand. It summons them to him. He is forever marked. It acts as a beacon for these evil entities. Guts jumps out of the wagon and tells everyone to stay inside. Incubi are born of the mixed blood and sexual fluids of those who died, filled with hatred and malice, which means that somewhere around here, there must be some corpses of bandits or the like who died violently. Corpses that the demons will possess and use to attack. The horse starts freaking out. The priest's daughter steps out of the wagon to calm him down and is immediately stabbed in the chest with a spear. A legion of dead bandits and soldiers start to rise from the waters. The wagon is standing in a former battleground. Guts wastes no time and starts hacking and slashing his way through the evil spirits. Fighting these evil spirits, however, proved to be futile. You can't kill what's already dead. Your only option is to flee. Guts has another plan. He doesn't care if the soldiers keep coming back. He wants to stay and fight. The only thing Guts seems to love is battle. He relishes it. The violence, the gore, the thrill. It seems Guts only feels alive when he is face to face with death. For him, the thought of having an endless army to fight is a dream come true. He takes pure enjoyment out of slashing his way through the army of the undead. During this rampage, Puck goes to check on the old man. He's nowhere to be found. Guts looks back to the wagon to see if the old man's head has been severed. The spirits have taken the girl's body. It's not just soldiers the spirits can possess, it's anyone. This seems to thoroughly disturb Guts. The girl steps out of the wagon and faces him. He thinks back to when she was alive, a kind young girl with her whole life ahead of her. Now she's an undead drone, no different than the skeleton soldiers. This seems to be the first time Guts actually feels guilty. If not for him, the priest and his daughter would still be alive. Guts is so stunned, he does nothing as the girl walks towards him and thrusts her sword to his abdomen. Not a killing blow, more of a flesh wound. But this wakes Guts up enough to snap him out of his trance, and he cuts the little girl in half. Guts starts vomiting, likely a combination of shock, pain, and guilt. The army starts attacking again. One soldier almost kills Guts with a spear. This angers the Black Swordsman, and he starts his killing spree once again. He fights until the sun eventually comes up. Puck watches in pure horror. This time the skeletons stay dead. It seems the spirits can only attack at night. The fight is finally over. Puck tries to comfort him, telling him it wasn't his fault. Guts starts laughing yet again. Puck is rightfully confused. Yeah, that's true. You're absolutely right. Like I said, anyone who gets killed because they got caught up in someone else's fight is a small fry. If they can't live their own lives freely, they're better off dead. Those two didn't have the strength to protect themselves from a walking disaster like me. That's all there is to it. If you're always worried about crushing the ants beneath you, you won't be able to walk. Now, I could be completely wrong, but I don't believe Guts here. Not after the reaction he had before. I think it's easy for Guts to say he doesn't care that everyone is a quote-unquote small fry because it's easier than dealing with the guilt of getting that little girl and her father killed. And I do think Guts feels guilty. His laughter is a sort of coping mechanism. Well, at least that's what I think. His laughter is his way of shutting out all of his other emotions, his guilt, his pain, and his fear. They start hearing rustling from the trees. It seems the spirits are still there, taunting Guts. It's useless. You cannot run from us. Wherever you go, we will find you. You belong to me, so long as you have that brand. Yes, so long as you have that brand. You cannot run from us, wherever you are. You belong to us. Your anger, your sadness, your pain, all of them belong to us, even your fear. Guts fires his hand cannon into the air. The voices stop and Guts starts to walk away. Puck tries to get his attention, but Guts ignores him. He just keeps walking. This is the world Guts lives in. Puck said he wanted to see what would happen, and he definitely saw. The Guardians of Desire, Part 1. This chapter opens with a little girl being executed for suspected heresy. The girl is decapitated in front of the crowd. This was the 5th execution of the month. The count says anyone who looks like a spy or a drifter shall be tried and executed as a heretic. I do this for the good of all my subjects. It is my sacred duty to protect this kingdom from all accursed heretics. The peaceful existence of my subjects is my utmost desire, my utmost pleasure. I will not let anyone interfere with that. It seems the town is going through something of an inquisition. Innocent drifters are accused of being spies and heretics. Guts stands among the crowd of onlookers. He picks up the girl's head, where he can see she still had tears in her eyes. One of the guards asks Guts to hand him over the head. He spits in the guard's face and throws the head at the count. Guts punches the guard, breaking his face and teeth. Upon the girl's forehead is the same mark on Guts' neck. The count immediately recognizes the symbol, the Black Swordsman. How amusing. Declaration of war, perhaps? The Count crushes her head and starts laughing. Both the Count and the Baron knew who Guts was once they saw the symbol. It raises the question of what the symbol actually means. Why does Guts have it? And why are the apostles so afraid of it? Guts tries to run away, but is eventually trapped by a wall of knights. He's arrested for conspiring with heretics. Guts slashes the guards completely in half. It's amazing how even in steel armor, Dragon Slayer still cuts through the men like butter. The rest of the knights try to charge Guts, but they are met with the same fate as the first two. The knights stand no chance against a warrior like Guts. Archers ready to shoot from above. Before they can fire, Puck flies in front of them and blinds them. Despite the horrors he's witnessed, he's still going to follow Guts wherever he goes. Guts saves the elf's life once again when a guard grabs him. The knight's captain, Lord Zondark, has come to deal with the intruder. Zondark is gigantic. He towers over his fellow soldiers. He's even a giant compared to Guts. He challenges Guts to a fight. His giant sword versus Zondark's mighty warhammer. The two start sprawling. Zondark proves to be quite a challenge for Guts. He's ferocious when he fights. He even kills his fellow knights while swinging his warhammer. Zondark is able to back Guts into a wall. He goes for a killing blow, but Guts is able to block it, breaking the warhammer and Zondark's helmet. Fragments of his helmet fly into his face, partially blinding him. Guts kicks the captain in the face. He's once again surrounded by soldiers. It's looking dire when suddenly a smoke bomb is thrown down. A mysterious bandaged man is calling to Guts from underground. This mysterious stranger was also among the crowd from the beheading earlier. The guards scramble to find him, while Guts and Puck make their escape. The stranger brings the pair into his hideout. He has a vast collection of dead things in jars, including an elf. Quite a collection. I suppose if someone were to accuse you of being a heretic, you'd have a hard time explaining all this. The stranger says he used to be a physician. He says he saw Guts in the crowd earlier. He asks if he has a vendetta against the Count. Guts kicks the stranger's cane away. I'm the one who's asking the questions, not you. I couldn't afford to let them capture you back there. I want you to kill him. I want you to come into little pieces, that demon. The bandages were covering horrible disfigurements. Both of his legs are made of wood. The stranger has a vendetta against the Count, and I think this is a pretty big indication as to why. That accursed Count, he's not even human. He's a demon. Look at me. These legs, this face. That fiend cut them piece by piece and ate them. Both the Count and the Baron ate human flesh. This appears to be something all apostles do. The stranger tells Guts he has something to show him. Hidden behind a fake wall, the secret is some kind of egg-shaped statue with a distorted human face. This is it. This is a behelit. By Guts' reaction, he seems to know exactly what this thing is, and by judging by his expression, it probably isn't something good. The Guardians of Desire, Chapter 2. The stranger is surprised to hear that Guts knows what the behelit is. Guts grabs the man's neck and demands to know where he got it from. The stranger says he stole it from the Count. He tells the two how he got it. We learn of the stranger's backstory. His name is Vargas. He used to be a castle physician. In those days, the Count was a different person. He was cruel, but at least he was still human. But 7 years ago, after getting hold of this thing, the Count changed. He began to treat people as if they were mere playthings, dissecting them alive, slicing them open, chopping them up, violating them, and then eating them. His inquisition of heretics became nothing more than an excuse to acquire more bodies. I couldn't bear to be a part of the Count's diversions, so I secretly fled the castle with my wife and 2 sons, but on our way out, we were caught and thrown into prison. Then, the fiend hacked me up, and right before my eyes, he took my wife and my sons. Even now, the image is seared into my memory. After surviving the worst possible torture, Vargas was forced to watch the Count devour his family in front of him, and he couldn't do anything. I can't imagine a worse possible hell. In Vargas' story, the Count is a huge, disgusting, slob-looking monster. Is this his apostle form? At the time, more than anger or sorrow, more than concern for my wife and 2 sons, I was nothing but a prisoner of fear. Prisoner of fear, something Guts may know something about. Vargas was able to escape the castle by faking his own death. Since then, Vargas has tried figuring out what this strange figure is, but he was never able to do it. Guts tells him it's a key into another world that overlaps our own. It's a key that summons demons from another dimension that have manipulated the dark side of human history since ancient times, the 5 members of the God Hand. This was the group Guts has been looking for, and now he may have a way to get to them. Inside the castle, the doctors are trying to treat Lord Zondark, but to no avail. The Count comes to check on him. He's screaming for the Black Swordsman. He wants to kill him. The Count has everyone vacate the room. Zondark tells the Count that he will do anything to kill the Black Swordsman. The Count tells him he will grant his wish. A slug-like monster crawls out of the Count's mouth and into Zondark's. It seems Vargas' vision was accurate of the Count's true form. Outside, a knight tells Lord Dahl that they know the whereabouts of the Black Swordsman. He says they'll send 30 troops to kill him. The Count has another plan. They'll send one soldier, Lord Zondark. Zondark looks even bigger than before. His eyes, looks bloodshot and deranged. His teeth are sharpened like a shark. Whatever the Count did to Zondark, it turned him into a monster, like himself. Back in Vargas's lab, Puck and Guts talk about the Behelit. Guts says that the thing's alive. It's not just a key. He asks Vargas how the Count got it in the first place. By chance, he happened to buy it from a caravan of merchants that stopped by the castle one day. Even the merchants knew nothing about it. All they said was they found it in a town bazaar somewhere in the east. Guts doesn't seem to be completely convinced by the story. Vargas shows a secret passage in the castle that they can use to stay undetected. He tells Guts to kill the Count for him. For the past 7 years, I've waited for this day. I've waited for the day that a man like you would appear. You're my only hope. Vargas makes the mistake of touching Guts. He kicks Vargas away and tells him to never touch him again. Guts says he makes him sick, that he disgusts him. Puck tries to defend the helpless man, but to no avail. Vargas tells him it's okay. He doesn't care what Guts calls him, as long as he kills the Count. He says he won't avenge him, but he will still kill the Count nonetheless. Suddenly, Guts hears a strange noise coming his way. It's Zondark crashing his way through. The two start fighting in the lab. This time, however, Zondark is much faster and stronger. Zondark's able to quickly overwhelm Guts. When Guts' brain starts bleeding, he finally realizes that Zondark is no longer human. Even his appearance is more monstrous than last time. Zondark goes for a killing blow, but Guts is able to get under him and cut his arm off. This is a short-lived victory once Zondark's arm starts to grow back. He grows a grotesque tendril and picks up his mighty axe. Guts takes the Dragon Slayer and readies himself for Zondark's attack. During his attack, Zondark's axe starts tearing the ceiling of the lab to pieces. He's swinging that battle axe around like a whip. It's too fast for the human eye to see. Despite Zondark's incredible speed and power, Guts is able to deflect every attack he throws at him. Guts dodges Zondark's axe. He closes the distance and cuts off his other arm, then slices the top of his head off. Vargas and Puck are in awe of Guts' incredible swordsmanship. I always knew he was tough, but it seemed like he was just swinging his sword around wildly. But now I realize that he's a master swordsman. While it only seemed like Guts was deflecting Zondark's strikes, he was also positioning himself for a kill shot and waiting for his perfect opportunity to strike. Unfortunately for the group, Zondark isn't dead. Just like his arm, Zondark's head starts growing back. Black Swordsman. We see the slug monster from the Count has been inside Zondark the whole time. Not bad, Black Swordsman. For a mortal, that is. This isn't Zondark. It was the Count. The Count killed Zondark and took over his body. He used it as a vessel, much like the spirits back in the woods. The Count tells Vargas that after he's done with Guts, they'll pick up where they left off 7 years ago. The entire place starts to collapse. The trio escape through a trapdoor in the floor leading them to the sewers. Was that the Count? No, it's not the Count. It's more like his daemon. That's also what the Count said to Zondark earlier. Take it inside of you, my daemon. Not gonna lie, I didn't know what the word daemon meant, and yes, it's daemon, not demon, before anyone tries saying anything. I didn't know what it meant. I thought it was like maybe a funny way of spelling demon, but when I looked it up, it's actually a Greek word. It's similar to a demon, but whereas a demon is purely evil, from my understanding, a daemon is an entity like a demon, but it can be good or evil. So I guess what this means is that while the Count is definitely an evil daemon, that there could possibly be other ones that aren't necessarily evil. It was feeding off that guy up there, in total control of his mind and body. All that remained was his desire to kill. This doesn't seem to be the case with the Count though. He still seems to be in control, but when he puts his daemon in Zondark, it took complete control over him. I'm very curious how the daemons work in this universe. This is where the trio part. But before that, Guts tells Vargas to give him the Behelit, a sort of down payment for killing the Count. Guts takes the Behelit and Puck says goodbye. Oh, one more thing. I think that people need to keep living. You see, I don't know much about life, but living for the future is more important than trying to avenge the past, I guess. On top of being the comic relief, Puck is also the only one who's hopeful. In this nihilistic and cruel world of cannibalistic demons and bloodthirsty swordsmen, Puck remains optimistic. He sees the good in everyone, even Guts. He's friendly to all and only lives to serve others. He is so much more than just a laugh here and there. Puck finally says goodbye and flies away. A tendril emerges from the water and takes Vargas away. The Count, or whatever the monster was, is still alive. While walking the streets, Guts and Puck hear news of another execution. It's Vargas. The Count abducted him and is now going to have him killed. This seems to upset Guts. Puck tried to get his attention, but to no avail. Puck flies away. He's going to try to save Vargas himself. Guts removes his prosthetic arm. He thinks back to what Vargas said about his family. He sliced them up, chopped them off, and then he ate them before my eyes. He took my wife and my son. I was nothing but a prisoner of fear. Please avenge me. This angers Guts and he punches the wall. It's obvious that Vargas' story did have an effect on Guts, even if he says he doesn't care. Guts told Puck that he was disgusted to look at Vargas. He even called him a monster. Could it be that upon looking on Vargas, it brought back some not good memories for Guts? Like Vargas, Guts is also a broken man. He's missing his arm and his eye. We know something must have happened to make him the way he is now. It's possible, or more quite likely, that Guts went through something very similar. Puck said Guts had this great fear in him. Vargas says he was a prisoner of fear. It seems Guts knows exactly what this feels like. Whether he likes it or not, Guts feels bad for him. Vargas is being prepared for his execution. Dole tells the Count they could not find the Behelit anywhere. He knows that means Guts must have it. While watching from afar, Puck notices Guts standing in an alleyway. He thinks Guts is here to save him. He's mistaken. Guts is here to watch. He wants to see Vargas die. Guts tells Puck that if he tried to save him, he would just be falling into the Count's trap. He tells him that he's so worried about Vargas, he should save him himself. The same goes for him, an average person. A misfit who can't even swing a sword. It's ridiculous for him to think he can defeat that monster. Ambition comes with a price attached. Of course, that price comes too high if you die for nothing. The reward for ambition too great is self-destruction. As Guts gives his hateful monologue, Puck starts absorbing his emotions again. Not again. Like before, his emotions are pouring into me. It burns, burning like black magma. Dark and violent emotions pounding into me. Self-hating, destructive. This is the source of Guts' strength. Puck asks Guts if he's afraid. What are you talking about? The old fella fighting enemies he can't possibly defeat. You're afraid of him, aren't you? Yeah, you are afraid. Afraid to admit that you're also fighting a losing battle. You don't want to admit that you're just like him. Puck says if Guts didn't care about Vargas at all, then he wouldn't be here. Guts grabs Puck and tells him an elf has no business talking to him like a human. Looks like Puck might have struck a chord. Puck bites his hand and flies away. Damn bug. Should I feel compassion? You gotta be kidding me. Vargas is about to be executed. To Puck's credit, he does try to save him. It doesn't work very well. It's a shame. What's that supposed to mean? That I won't be around to enjoy the sight of you choking in your own blood. Death will be paying you a visit very soon, along with the hundreds you've killed who will drag you down to hell with them. Nonsense. Finish him off. The first time I read this part, I really did think Guts was going to save him. I thought his conscience was going to eat at him and he was going to save Vargas, but he doesn't. Vargas is executed. Guts just watches as his head flies through the air. Guts seems disgusted with himself. He starts to walk away before he sees the fetus monster again. But this time, it has Vargas' head. Could this monster represent someone else Guts let die? Or someone else he failed to protect? Is Vargas going to hunt him now, along with whatever this thing is? Later, soldiers from the castle dispose of Vargas' body in a pit. Guts appears behind them and kills them all. The look in your eyes, filled with vengeance. I won't fail, like you. Guts seems to be almost gloating, or he might be making a promise. The spirits from the forest come back. His head. We want the Count's head. Revenge. Revenge, we want revenge. Together. The spirits are repeating what Vargas told Guts earlier. They want revenge. Could it be Vargas' spirit demanding he gets his revenge? One of the spirits seems to almost possess Guts, leading to this monstrous image. No. No. Guts' anger drives the spirits away. Never. You and I got nothing in common. You're dead, all of you. You're nothing but worthless scum. Get away from me, carcasses. This is my fight. Mine. A person of flesh and blood. That's right, I'll do it myself. I'll kill the Count with my very own flesh and blood. This is the end of the chapter. I find the choice of words Guts uses to be interesting. The look in your eyes, filled with vengeance. I won't fail, like you. To me, it sounded like Guts is almost promising Vargas that he will kill the Count. I still believe that Guts sees himself in Vargas. If he wasn't such a formidable warrior, he might just be like Vargas. Perhaps he's afraid he will fail, and he doesn't want to end up like him. And I do think it is possible that Guts might even feel guilty. He just stood as an innocent man was killed because of him. And obviously this is all very much just speculation. As I said, I'm not going to read any more of Berserk than what I'm going to be covering. So at this point, I don't know much of Guts's actual character other than what we've seen here. So everything I'm theorizing could very much be wrong, but I guess we're gonna see together. The Guardians of Desire, Chapter 3. Puck was taken prisoner after he tried to save Vargas. He's now in the Count's custody. Puck is thinking of his failure to save Vargas. He's clearly upset about it. He's scared of what's about to happen to him. And knowing what the Count is capable of, I would say he has a pretty good reason to be. Surprisingly, Puck is not going to be killed or tortured. He's given to the Count's daughter as a gift. You heard right. This thing has a daughter. Her name is Teresia. Teresia has always wanted an elf for a pet, and now she has Puck. Thank you, Father. Are you lonely here, Teresia? Be patient, my dear. I couldn't possibly let you into the impure world, overrun by filthy heretics. Is that what this Count is doing? Cleansing the world for his daughter? The Count tries to touch his daughter, but she recoils in fear. She's terrified of her father. Does she know the monster he is? Is there a reason why she's afraid of her own father touching her? After the meeting with his daughter, the Count requests to be alone. He's sad. That is until he sees something coming from the distance. It's Guts, coming to kill the Count once and for all. The Count's daemon is waiting for Guts on the stairs. The daemon is even more hideous than he was the last time we saw it. It doesn't even resemble a human anymore. This thing looks like something out of a Dead Space game. It also strikes a heavy resemblance to William Birkin from Resident Evil 2, and a bit like Krauser from RE4, though that one's a bit of a stretch, admittedly. Guts riddles the daemon's body with bolts, pinning him against the wall. He reloads and starts shooting again. Now that he's weak, Guts takes the Dragon Slayer and cuts the daemon in half, causing him to fall off the ledge of the castle. He thinks the fight's over, that is until the daemon swings its mighty tendril at Guts once again. No matter what Guts does, the daemon just keeps coming back bigger and stronger. All those eyeballs on the daemon's body remind me of Jack Baker's final form from Resident Evil 7 Biohazard. Okay, last Resident Evil reference, well, at least for this video. It's futile. No matter how much you chop me up, no matter how much you hack up this possessed body, unless you cut off my head. Bit odd the daemon would just reveal how Guts can kill him. I guess it was to show how confident and cocky the daemon is, but still it's a bit strange. I'll just keep regenerating myself over and over again. Unsurprisingly, Guts cuts the daemon's head off. I mean, he told him how to do it. The daemon's head detaches from his body. It's still alive, however. The body might be useless, but the daemon could attach itself to Guts' sword and take over his body. The daemon starts growing root-like tentacles all over the Dragon Slayer. The sword with the tendrils around it looks a lot like the Blasphemous Blade from Elden Ring. You'd get the sword after beating the optional boss Rykard. The Blasphemous Blade would hold the souls of the dead heroes Rykard would devour. It also happens to be my favorite weapon from Elden Ring. As I mentioned earlier, there are a lot of Berserk references in FromSoft games. I can only speak for the ones in Elden Ring, however, how that's the only FromSoft game I've actually played, but I'll just name a few. In Khalid, you can find the Dragon Slayer. Khalid itself is likely a homage to Berserk's Eclipse. The prisoner's helmet is very similar to Griffith's torture helmet. In the Mistwood Ruins, you can find a character named Blide the Half-Wolf. His armor was designed to look exactly like Guts' Berserker armor. There's a ton more, but those are the only ones I'll name here. Honestly, now that I've started reading Berserk, it makes me want to play the other FromSoft games just to see what other Easter eggs I can find. Guts swings his sword and slams the monster's head against the castle wall. Don't think it's over yet. I'll be waiting for you upstairs. This is still the Count talking. He's waiting for Guts. Guts starts climbing again, but he feels lightheaded. He lost a lot of blood when the daemon hit him in the back. Despite being in a weakened state, Guts' desire for revenge is too great. He powers through and starts climbing once more. Back in Teresia's quarters, Puck believes she intends on eating him. Given what her father's capable of, I would say this is a pretty rational fear. Teresa ensures the little elf that she will not eat him. Teresa says she knows what it feels like to be locked in a cage. Remember, the Count doesn't let her leave her room. Puck doesn't believe her. She understands who her father is. Father's a different person since that day. That day Mother died 7 years ago. Teresa said that when she was young, a group of heretics kidnapped her mother and threatened to kill her if the Count didn't let them practice their pagan rituals. The Count couldn't give in to the heretics' demands without permission from the king, who refused. So, just like they said they would, the heretics killed Teresia's mother. After the death of his wife, the Count changed. He became obsessed with hunting down heretics, not only to avenge his wife, but because he wants to, because he enjoys it. Teresia breaks down and Puck comforts her. She feels that her father isn't human anymore. I mean, I think we know the answer there. Guts kills a few more guards within the castle, making his way up to the Count. We can see he's patched up his head wound from earlier. Upstairs, Guts runs into some more knights. Dahl knew Guts would be coming and he set up a trap. He had his men open fire. Guts deflects the arrows with a Dragon Slayer. Then, he cuts all the archers in half with one incredible swing. Dahl orders the rest of the soldiers to attack. They don't fare much better. Guts shows no mercy. He cuts his way through all of the Count's army without breaking a sweat. The soldiers stand no chance against Guts' strength and his swordsmanship. Eventually, the rest of the soldiers run away. They know trying to fight Guts is pointless. Now, it's just Guts and Dahl. Back in Teresia's room, the young girl asks Puck what it's like to fly. She dreams of being able to fly and one day escape from her prison. The Count doesn't allow her to leave her room. He tells her that there are still heretics lurking around the city. She hasn't left her room in almost 7 years. Teresia and Puck see soldiers gathering outside her window. Puck hears a man mention an intruder in the inner compound. He knows it must be Guts. He tells Teresia he needs to go. Teresia cries out, demanding he doesn't go. She quickly apologizes and tells Puck that he may leave. I can understand why Teresia acted the way she did. I couldn't imagine how lonely this poor girl must feel. She opens the window and Puck flies out. He promises her that he will come back and he'll help her escape. Teresia's face lights up in joy. In a story as dark and depressing as Berserk, it is so important to have a somber moment like this, a shine of light in the darkness. It's vital in this kind of story to have a little resting point. You need to give the reader a chance to breathe. It's a reminder that not everyone has given up, and there is still some hope. And that's what Puck is, hope. Whenever a movie or show or a book is so overwhelmingly depressing and grotesque, it can become hard to sit through. You need to have these little moments to break up the violence. Stephen King was a master of this. Stories like It and The Body both deal with some heavy subject matter and both revolve around children. There are plenty of dark moments, but there's also a ton of moments of kids just being kids, hanging out in the Losers Club. One of my favorite books of all time, The Kite Runner by Khaled Hosseini, has a ton of really disturbing moments, usually revolving around children. It can be a really hard read at times, but it can also be beautiful at times. We see kids just being kids, enjoying life, living carefree. I believe as Berserk continues, we'll see more of these moments with Puck. We've already seen it a few times already. To me, this is what makes Puck one of the most important characters in Berserk. Guts kicks Dahl in the face, bursting his way into the Count's quarters. The two are finally face to face. Impressive that you made it this far. Well done, Black Swordsman. Come now and test me. Let's just see how far human power will go. Guts hears a noise coming from underneath him. He stabs the ground before the Count can touch him. It seems he learned from his first fight with the Baron. Nicely countered. I grasp the extent of your skills. It seems that I, too, must take this fight a little more seriously. Outside, Puck is flying around trying to find the Count's quarters. He finds it when one of the castle walls almost kills him. He flies inside and sees the Count changing. He is something out of a nightmare, pure hell and chaos. He is unimaginably large. He is way past anything resembling human. It's futile. No matter how many times you chop off my arms and legs, each time you cut them off, my body becomes stronger. It grows bigger and bigger. A mere sword can't possibly destroy me. The ground begins to fall apart as the Count moves towards Guts. All the chaos causes Teresia's ceiling to fall on top of her. Luckily, she's unharmed. She notices that one of her doors is now open. This may finally be her chance at freedom. She hesitates at first. This room is the only thing she has ever known. The poor girl must be terrified. She starts thinking about Puck and his wings. She said she wished she could fly away. Well, now's her chance. She takes a leap of faith and leaves her room. Guts narrowly escapes getting crushed. He can't fight the Count one-on-one. He has to be smart. Right now, the only thing Guts can do is run. What happened to the vigorous onslaught of yours? Did you finally realize that you have no chance of winning and decide to run away? The Count catches up to Guts. This was a trick. Guts put his robes on Dahl to distract the Count. He catches the Count by surprise and cuts half his face off. His swing was ever so slightly off from cutting off his whole head. The Count strikes back, throwing Guts across the room. You set a decoy and aim for my head at the spur of a moment. Indeed, your quick wits show that you're a first-rate warrior, but in the end, that's just a human technique. It's irrational to think you can defeat me. I, who am beyond human, the brand on your neck. Impossible to think that someone can survive with that brand carved into their flesh. I will dispatch you once and for all, back to where you belong, your final resting place in hell. It was already preordained the moment that brand was carved into your neck. Divine providence cannot be thwarted by man's efforts. You can die proudly now, knowing that at least you inflicted one blow upon me. Is that fear on Guts' face? Has he finally met his match? The Count grabs Guts by the leg and tosses him across the room, smashing him to the walls and the floors. Puck looks on in horror as Guts lays bleeding and weak, as the Count stands in front of his lifeless body. To me, this chapter illustrates that even with his unmatched strength and incredible fighting skills, Guts is still human. He's a mortal waging a war against beings much stronger than he is. He's fighting a losing battle, just like Vargas. Guts told the old physician's severed head that he wouldn't fail like he did, but right now, it seems like he's going to end up just like Vargas. The Guardians of Desire, Part 4. Puck is unable to wake Guts up. The Count continues his ridicule. No matter how much you've tried to hone your skills, you've come to the limit of your pathetic human form. How fragile, you humans. Puck reminds the Count that he was once one of those fragile humans. He only got his daemon powers so he can get revenge on the heretics. Revenge likely wasn't the only reason. You became this thing to run away from the pain inside your own heart, to run away from yourself. You threw away your humanity. If anyone's a fragile human, it's you. The Count says that Puck's speech was amusing, and for it, he will spare Puck's life. He probably just doesn't want to kill Puck because that means he'll just have to find another elf for Teresia anyway. Puck tries to wake Guts up again. The shaking causes the behelit, which Guts was holding onto, to fall on his head. The Count thanks Puck, saving him the time for having to look for it later. The Count starts chasing Puck for the behelit. At first, Puck is too fast for him. That is until a pebble falls on his head and knocks him out. Oh, Puck. At least you tried. The Count goes back on his word and is now going to kill Puck. That is until Teresia bursts through the door. She finally sees what her father really is. This was the Count's greatest fear. He never wanted Teresia to see the monster he has become. It's one of the reasons he hid her away in her room for all those years. Teresia runs away from her father. The Count begins to cry when he sees how afraid she is of him, of her own father. He is now filled with pure, unfiltered anger. It's because of Puck that Teresia saw her father's true form, and now the Count's gonna punish him for it. Puck tries to run away, but he is so scared that his body won't move a muscle. Luckily for Puck, Guts finally wakes up and gets the Count's attention. Not good enough. Just 2 or 3 broken bones. If you want to stop me, you're gonna have to crush my skull or pierce my heart. Just like you, slug. Just a few minutes ago, Guts was on death's door. Now he's smiling. He's gloating. He wants more. No matter how much stronger the Count is than him, Guts wants more. The Count hits Guts again and he goes flying across the room. He's vulnerable. The Count goes in for the killing blow. But at the very last possible second, Guts grabs Teresia and uses her as a human shield. He knows even a monster like the Count can't kill his own daughter. I believe this goes to show that Guts will do anything. There is no line he isn't willing to cross or life he isn't willing to sacrifice for his own mission. The Count tries to talk to his daughter again. While he's distracted, Guts throws Teresia to the side and blasts the Count in the face with his hand cannon. This staggers the Count and he recoils back. Guts tries to grab his sword, but all his fingers are broken. So, he picks up the Dragon Slayer with his teeth and cuts the Count's head off. The amount of strength it must take to pick up the Dragon Slayer with your teeth is beyond comprehension. The great beast falls to the ground. Guts props himself against the wall. He's smiling, laughing. He loves it. He planned that. He was counting on taking Teresia as a hostage all along. The Count, or what little there is left of him, damns Guts for what he has done. Guts, not satisfied with just killing him, sticks his knife into the Count's mouth and starts torturing him in front of his daughter. I'll show you the limit of a human being. Yeah, we're fragile, alright. We humans. Teresia breaks down and sobs. Puck tries to get the Guts to stop, but he sticks his knife in his face and tells him that he will kill him if he tries anything. If Guts couldn't possibly get any more evil in this scene, he picks up the Count's head and starts tormenting Teresia with it. Guts thoroughly enjoys tormenting this little girl, stabbing her own father in front of her again and again. By far, this is the most evil thing Guts has done. Yes, he was the cause of probably hundreds of deaths in his fight with the Baron, but at least you can argue that was just a means to an end. He didn't seem to actually enjoy it, but here he loves this. He rolls over and starts laughing. The Count's blood spreads to the behelit. This seems to activate the key and the group is teleported to another dimension. This realm is much different than ours. There are winding stairs and impossible structures, no doubt inspired by M.C. Escher's painting Relativity. They're coming. The great ones are coming. Guts' brand starts bleeding again. This time it bursts with blood. He kneels over in pain. Something really bad is on the way. Something much more sinister and powerful than the Baron or the Count. It's the God Hand. This is where we're going to end it today. Berserk is unlike anything I've covered on this channel. It's honestly hard to even put it into words. Berserk is dark, it's intense, and it's horrifying, and it's a masterpiece. It's one of the most influential pieces of fiction ever written. Our culture would look very different today if it wasn't for Berserk. It still blows my mind how Miura started this with absolutely no idea where it was going. In the beginning, all he had was a few early sketches of Guts and the name the Black Swordsman. He came up with everything along as he went. I just can't comprehend that. Miura was insanely talented. It's sad he had to leave this world so suddenly, but he can rest in peace knowing his work was loved by millions. If you go on YouTube, you can find people who say Berserk has changed their lives, and honestly, I can see why. If you guys are still watching at this point, I seriously want to thank you. I absolutely love making this video, and if you guys like watching it, I would love to make this a recurring series on the channel. If you like the video, I hope to see you for part 2. I would ask that you please leave a like on the video, comment, and subscribe, because there's a lot more to come. If you'd like to follow me on other places, my other socials are linked down below. I also stream on Twitch every Friday and Saturday. We have a lot of fun over there. If you get a chance, come check it out. We also have a Discord. We're starting to build our very own community here, and it's a lot of fun. If you'd ever like to talk to me personally, Discord is a pretty good place to do it. If you'd like to support me, you can check me out on Patreon. It's absolutely not necessary, but it is very much appreciated. For only $1 a month, you'll get all my videos early and uncensored. You'll also get weekly video updates and a shout out at the end of every video. Speaking of, I'd like to give a special shout out to Scarscale Golden, Taylor Kruzik, The Gent Slut, Anthony Ferrara, Karen Ferrara, Johnny Zamora, Alexandru, Smoke and Void, Dante Approves, and City Troy. You guys are beyond awesome. And yeah, that's pretty much everything. See ya.